here at the Norm's Rare Guitars podcast, and I've got some of my good buddies. It's like the whole family week here at Norm's Rare Guitars. We got one new family member, Bryan Ewald, from the Baltimore area. Is that right?
That's right.
And, my buddy Henny Hendrexz, you're also from that area too, right?
Baltimore, Maryland, bro.
There you go. So we're representing Baltimore. Then we got Philly over here.
Where you
and
from, Norm?
Philly over here too. So we got Philly, Baltimore. So these guys are spectacular guitar players. I'm not sure what I am, but I'm something, and I love doing this stuff over here. So I just want to talk to these guys for a sec. So my buddy Bryan over here, and Bryan is from Baltimore, and you're doing like demos for Paul Reed Smith, who's a friend of mine.
Yeah. I'm out
PRS.
doing some clinics and some demos and amp show and just getting to play fun guitars all day and lusting after all the guitars in your shop over there.
Very
I wanna
cool.
take half of them home.
Well, we got a lot of cool guitars that are not Paul Reed Smiths, and we got a bunch of Paul Reed Smith, and Paul Reed Smith is a great guitar, and you can tell because so many people are using them. And you, back home, you have a band called Starbelly.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's one of my projects, and very British pop influence, very like Squeeze, XTC, Crowded House, Beatles, obviously.
Cool.
I get my George Harrison in that band.
Very cool. Does anybody have a big belly like me? Or
Oh
can I
yeah,
join?
we all have our moments. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That could be my band.
Yeah.
I don't know about Starbelly, but Belly something or other. Jelly Belly or something like
Jelly
that.
Belly Brothers.
And then we got Henny Hendrexz, who is part of the family here, and we've known him for quite a while, and he's also from Baltimore. But you played with a lot of different people. You were on the BET show with Bobby Jones. That's like the longest running show on BET.
Yeah, I did the 34th and 35th season, the final season of BET, and as soon as the studio closed down in D.C., I came to see you, Norm.
Well, there you go. Well, so you weren't working on it for 34 years.
No,
You look a little younger than that.
Just the last two seasses.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Well, and you were playing with Dru Hill.
Right. Yeah.
Fantasia, who was,
American Idol.
American Idol, who was fantastic. And so it's, he's got quite a history. We'll talk a little bit more about some of that stuff. And then we got Michael Lemmo.
Hello.
And Michael Lemmo is
Now you're stuck
our
with
star.
Lemmo.
Yeah, I'm stuck with Lemmo. But he's like our star guitar player at the store, one of the most original players ever.
Appreciate that.
I think the most.
And
thank you.
I love his playing, and I love all these guys playing. They all play with great taste, and they're all very rhythmic. And to me, that's where the tune lays. All the lead stuff. I mean, that's great that you can do that, but if it doesn't lay over a good groove, not happening, right?
That's right. Rhythm is 95% of the song, and the solo is just a little icing. Yeah.
Right. So, and like who's that lady? That's Ernie Isley, who was known for playing that, but. A lot of that, I think, was taken from Curtis Mayfield, who
Oh, yeah.
Jimi Hendrix got a lot of his stuff from. Curtis Mayfield was my unsung hero. Always played the least amount. You always wanted to hear more of Curtis. Now a lot of the guitar players they play, you're kind of hearing more than you necessarily want to hear. So Curtis was like the understated, and then Jimmy, like when you hear like Castles Made of Sand, Little Wing, and things like that, that all came from Curtis Mayfield.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So,
all those tracks.
Yeah, and so like who do you listen to, Bryan, when you're like
Well, I mean, I grew up listening to the same stuff you're talking. I mean, Hendrix, obviously, and then I was a huge Motown fan, huge Beatles fan. One of my idols is Jeff Beck. I mean, he's
don't get much better than
he's
that.
elevated. It's like a voice. I mean,
Yep.
it's such a extension of him. But like there's so many great new players. Like I'm a huge fan of Blake Mills and Errol
Blake
Post
is a
and-
buddy, and I've
Yep.
known him since he was a young kid. He's
Yep.
just outstanding.
There's a really great scene of players that I keep discovering thanks to the internet and Instagram, and Errol Posen and Joey Landreth, like really musical players. I'm a huge Derek Trucks fan.
Great.
So a lot of slide players and to me, like you said, rhythmic guitar players and melodic players. That to me is where the magic is.
Well, you mentioned Jeff Beck, and Jeff had a big hit with "People Get Ready."
Oh, yeah.
That's a Curtis Mayfield too.
Yep.
So apparently Jeff, is tipping his hat to Curtis as well. And so, Henny, you tell me, like, who do you listen to when you listen?
So I listen to a lot of different people. Reason being, I love hip hop, and then I love guitar. So I listen to a lot of my influences first would be Hendrix, of course, John Frusciante from Red Hot Chili Peppers, the second guitar player, which I think he was probably the best for defining that group. Then Nile Rodgers, of course. I'm a fan of anybody that has a great right hand technique. So anybody that has like a strong right hand as far as rhythmic, but Nile Rodgers definitely. But honestly, I'm still stuck with John Frusciante.
Yeah, he's great.
Like the Chili Peppers, I can't move on past his last album. So anything Frusciante is like gold to me.
And you can combine guitar with hip hop. Not every hip hop artist does, but Michael was playing with Alan Raymond, and that's kind of a combination, kind of a hip hop thing, but with some guitar and
people
some
ask
stuff.
me what's the genre, and I always say it's like hip hop grunge, and it is. And people see it, they're like, oh, that makes sense. But yeah, and it's funny because that's one of the things that makes Alan's act unique. He always had a guitar player up there, and it was my first time playing without a drummer, just playing the beats. It really has its place. It's just a matter of finding the guitar players to do it right.
Well, you got to have a good time when you're playing with the machine.
It's funny because on stage, the amp's kind of the only thing pushing air, and then you got the speakers pushing everything else. So it's a different experience, but it definitely fits in the tracks, and it's actually helped me learn a lot, because I didn't always listen to hip hop, but I remember Get Rich or Die Trying, 50 Cent coming out and all that stuff. That was like the biggest thing, and I was like, maybe I should quit guitar. and then it all came full circle, and it's definitely got a spot in there, and it's helped me round out my musical taste too. So,
Henny, you were working on Jay-Z's label for a while there, right?
Yeah, I was with an artist named Harry Hudson, who was on Rock Nation. I think he's still on Rock Nation now, and had a lot of good experiences with that. Got a chance to tour the world, meet a crazy amount of people. Also meet some cool people from labels. That was, I think, working with Rock Nation, working with like their staff. I got a chance to meet cool people, which tied me into other situations with like Warner Chappell, and just like actually being around that camp exposed me to so much. So big shout out to Jay-Z, because he doesn't even know me, but I've been in the building before. So
very cool. And you were working with Michael Jackson's nephew, TJ, right?
Yeah, I just did TJ's video. I just did his video shoot, which should be the next song out on his. He was part of 3T, and now he's releasing his first solo project. So I just did the music, the video behind that, the visuals, and supposed to be some live stuff coming up. So
yeah, and you're going to be doing some stuff for Vero and the All Guitar Network. They're trying to create a show around you.
We're trying.
He's
a character, that Henny Hendrexz. He's one of our
plenty
family.
of content.
Yeah, there's going to be plenty of content with him. And Michael is a character himself. And, you guys
Jake.
that know us from the store and Guitar of the Day, everybody loves Michael. And everybody, always comments to me, man, where did you find this guy? And actually, my son discovered him in our store. My son, came out, and I was in the office doing something. He said, you got to come out and check this guy out. I said, I'll be out. He said, no, you got to come out now. And when I checked out Michael, I realized my son knew what he was talking about. He's got a good ear, and it was very cool.
That was a special day. Oops, sorry.
I must say, Norm, I also owe Jordan Harris a big thank you, because my first stop, I remember I was so nervous to come into the store. I remember when I first moved to California, and I moved like right down the street from the shop, and I was so nervous to come in, and one day I was just like, you know what, I'm going to come in. I'm just going to come in and like play, because I had watched on YouTube. I had seen magazines as a kid with like you in the pictures in the magazines, the vintage guitar magazines, and then watching YouTube, and then finally coming out here, and then I met Jordan. And then Jordan introduced me to you, and Jordan brought this guy around.
Jordan spotted Henny. Jordan has a very good ear. He's actually a very good singer and a very interesting and very good songwriter.
I feel like for LA, you have a lot of people who are like, you're great, and then you never hear from him again. He is sure about what he likes, and he will not stop at anything. You cannot tell him a different way, and I think that's a special thing, because he knows what he likes, and he knows when he hears it. And yeah, he's helped both of us big time
A lot.
get through that door. So
A lot,
Jordan's
yeah.
amazing.
Well, and I want to just say, and for Bryan over here, you're buddies with one of my really close buddies and kind of family in the store and in the All Guitar Network, which we're on, as well as our podcast. And again, you can see the video of these things a week following. Tuesday is the day that the podcast comes out. The following Tuesday, we put the video of it out on the All Guitar Network. But my buddy Tim Pierce.
Oh, Tim, I've been a fan of Tim's forever, and I've got to know him mainly through PRS and done like stuff
Tim
with
also
Nam,
does
yeah.
demos for PRS,
Yeah.
and one of the most recorded guitar players, one of the greatest guitar
Yeah,
players I know.
I
One of the
grew up
nicest
listening to
guys.
all his parts, and he's such a musical person that like and just a sweetheart of a guy. Just I mean, just
He's humble
very
and he's
humble,
really
yeah.
nice to everybody. People come in the store and they go, Tim Pierce, and you know he's like, you know, he gets a little shaky. He goes, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
but he's getting a lot of exposure on the internet as well. Because I mean, you know, for years he was like behind the scenes playing on Michael Jackson, Madonna, Goo Goo Dolls,
Oh, yeah.
Santana, anybody who wanted. First class guitar player and wanted to get it done in no time, they would go with Tim Pierce because Tim could get the job done without hesitation, and you knew you were going to get something good.
Yeah, his videos he's doing now where he's telling stories of in the studio when I played on this song, and it's like that I could sit around and watch this stuff all day. It's just so
Well,
cool.
the stuff that he's got now on the All Guitar Network is really cool because he's got some stuff where he calls it like the 3-minute lick, and then he's got how to record in the studio, you know, just techniques that, you know, mic techniques and, you know, how to kind of get the most out of your sound and that kind of thing. So he's very helpful. And then he's got his master class that he does
Yeah.
online, and, you know, it's everybody loves that. And, you know, I mean, it's a real good way to get a jump start on everything by having a guy like that, you know, giving you his secrets because, you know, there's a lot of guys that don't want to share, and he will.
He will. He totally will. Yeah.
That's a good point. He will. And he does all the time. Yeah. It's funny though. You know, you go up to him and you're like, "Hey, you're Tim Pierce." You see people, he's like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
Shocked
he
every
is,
time.
yeah.
He's a humble guy, but really awesome.
Well, you know, and then, you know, one thing that's really kind of cool is Michael and Henny, you know, play a lot together, especially in the store. And, you know, there was some kind of symbiotic thing going on there between them. I mean, they both just kind of know what's going to happen next. And they're, you know, they're both really good listeners when they, you know, when they play. I mean, they follow each other and they compliment each other really good. And then, you know, when Bryan was in the store, he heard them playing and then he jumped in and
fit
it
right
was
in.
really cool. You know, that's the difference between a real musician. I mean, you know, it's not necessarily, I mean, you know, and blues is fantastic and it's a simple art form and playing it right is a real thing. But sometimes when there's a couple chord changes or some voicings and stuff like that, that really makes, you know, for interesting music. Like my buddy Joe Bonamassa, who we did a podcast with, who's one of the all-time greats. He, you know, whenever I talk to him and he goes, "Oh, I don't know voicings," you know, bullshit. He knows it. He, you know, he plays the hell out of it. He hears everything. His singing is getting great. I mean, his guitar playing is pretty hard for anybody to even get near him,
Oh,
and the
yeah,
style that he
he's a
plays, it's amazing how good he is. And then, you know, his buddies like Josh Smith, who's another real good friend of ours at the store who comes in, and we love Josh. And also Kirk Fletcher is another one.
Eric Gales.
Eric Gales is a monster as
Yeah.
well. You know, he's like taking that Hendrix thing to a whole
Yeah.
different level. He's been on those Bonamassa Blues cruises.
Kingfish, he's great.
Kingfish is another one.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
And there was what was that other guy? There's
Eric Steckel.
well, Eric Steckel is another young guy who's
I
really
just
good.
saw that kid Marcus King for the first time.
Yeah, Marcus also
Yeah.
was on.
he's-
We did a video with
yeah.
him at the store, and then he's been on the Bonamassa thing. Chris Kane. Now, Chris Kane is a monster. We haven't had him in the store yet, but I met him on the Blues Cruise, and everybody on the ship was talking about him because not only does he play incredible stuff on guitar, but he sings like B.B. King, and he plays keyboard like Ray Charles, plays great horn, saxophone, and everybody on the boat was kind of going, man, have you heard Chris Kane? And then I met him, and he's a character too. He's a nut, and he's very funny. And, all these guys, what's kind of cool is, back in the day, sometimes rock stars were a little aloof and all that. But a lot of these guys are just regular folk, and they're easy to talk to, and they're just they make you comfortable when they're around you. And if you want them to sign something or ask them a question, they're always happy to help. So it's really good to see that these young guys are really kind of sharing their thing.
Yeah, that's a good
Inspiring.
thing.
I always look at it like I have a post that says I'm just a spirit in a body, just like you.
That's right.
So anybody that I inspire, I want them to know that we're on the same level. So it is great when you meet guys. Small story. One day I had a bad day. I'm on Ventura Boulevard, right? This kid pulls up next to me. He's like, hey, Henny, I saw you at, I think it was like Sam Ash, some music store or whatnot. I was having a really bad day. And so I had to fake it like, oh, cool, man. I'm just going to rehearsal. I'm just going somewhere. I was going home. I had a bad day. And so I thought, like, if this kid only knew what I was dealing with, right?
Yeah.
Who pulls up to me in a black Porsche on his birthday? Slash. Right next to me, right? And so I started thinking about the parallels. And I look at Slash, and Slash acknowledges me. I'm just like, whoa, my goodness. It made my day, right? So I'm looking at this kid who's, like, viewing me a certain way, and I'm thinking, like, geez. And then I look at Slash, who's on the same street, and it just let me know, like, listen, we're all on the same course together. You know what I mean?
Slash is a really good guy, and he's
He
down
is.
to earth. It was funny because when Michael first started working for us, the first guitar of the day he did was
was a
6-string bass, right?
Custom shop Fender Bass 6.
And Jen, who is our secretary and does all our videos at the store, who's terrific and is an integral part of what we do, came up to Michael and said, Slash is on the phone for you. And Michael goes, huh?
Yeah, this is already me. Like, if you watch the first Guitar of the Day episode, I'm like a robot. I'm just basically shitting myself, freaking
Hey,
out.
we can't say
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry.
I don't give a fuck, but don't say
Oh, okay,
that.
okay. I'm sorry, guys.
right.
I save it for the podcast.
Yeah,
but
there you go.
it was just crazy, and he came in and bought the guitar you would never guess you'd buy, a Bass 6 Fender, offset body.
No gold top.
No gold top this time, and I just remember him being so relaxing to be around, and then he just was like, "Yeah, smooth transition, man." That was
And
it.
he said to me, he said, that guy Michael Lemmo, he can really play,
Oh, yeah.
Nice compliment from a great guitar player.
He's a great guy, very easy to be around too, and just amazing.
And you're doing some other stuff. You're going out, Brian, with Take 6, right?
Well, yeah,
Acapella group.
Take 6 and Nina Freelon and a couple jazz and gospel artists and a killer sax player, Tom Scott, who's played on
I know Tom. Tom
everything.
is
He's played
incredible.
on everything.
I met him with Joni Mitchell when
Yeah.
she was doing Court and Sparks, and Robbie Robertson. I was running an ad. This is before I even had a store. I was running an ad in the newspaper in the LA Times for some guitars for sale, and I had like this apartment with wall-to-wall guitars, and Robbie came in, and there was nobody at the time in LA that was selling like vintage guitars and stuff, and Robbie just kind of freaked, and he ended up buying a couple guitars for me, and then he said, would you mind if I bring a friend next week? And I said, nah, I don't care. And he comes in with Bob Dylan, and this was like at the last waltz time, and I'm kind of going, okay, cool.
Wow.
The next week he brings in Joni Mitchell, Robin Ford, and Tom Scott. And, don't get any better than those guys.
Wow.
That's insane.
So, and the Take 6 thing, you're doing a bunch of race
It's a Ray.
stuff.
It's called Georgia on My Mind, and it's like a Ray Charles tribute with these great. And that'll just be part of the backing band. I haven't done the gig yet. I just got the call not too long ago from the music director, and it's a bunch of dates. I think in Texas in November, and then we're doing a U.S. thing early next year. So. Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Great music, great singers. How bad could it be, right?
Absolutely. I love a cappella stuff. I love group harmony. And
Yeah.
I was a member of the Doo-Wop Society, not to date myself, but I just love group harmony. And,
Oh, for sure.
and those guys are really badass. So that should be very cool. Henny Hendrexz and our own Michael Lemmo. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be back in just a few minutes. I've been begged by so many people, don't play. But this is one tune that I know a little bit on bass, so I figure, if anybody throws anything at me, it's hard to do that through a camera or through a podcast. So I pretty much have reduced these guys to, these guys are all like excellent players, and then I come along and kind of reduce them to mere mortals.
No way. You
probably wouldn't have any guitars if it wasn't for you. So.
Norm corrects all your wrong chords. That's what happens. I come in for guitar of the day, and I'll try a Beatles song. He goes, "That's wrong," and then we work out the melody. So we need you there.
Well, sometimes you need the old guy, who's got a memory of things from back in the 60s. Of course, a lot of my memories from the 60s have been kind of hampered and blurry. I did grow up in the 60s, and, in my book, I have a book, and I kind of let out some of the secrets, and I figured, at this point, if they give me a life sentence, it's not that long, few years maybe, but I've got Bryan Ewald here, and Bryan is from Baltimore, and Bryan is a badass guitar player. He's doing a lot of stuff with Paul Reed Smith, and Paul is a buddy of mine, and great guitars, and so many people are using PRSs now.
Yeah. I mean, he's as you've known Paul, he's a brilliant guy, and he's never going to rest until he's going to just keep tweaking them and trying to solve the puzzle of how do you improve the mousetrap, build a better mousetrap over and over. And it's a fun gig to sit around and play nice guitars.
They're easy to handle, and they're
stay in tune, and they feel great.
Yeah, it's kind of Gibson-y, but with a little thinner body for most part.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Stuff like that, and they work really good, and they sound good, and they stay in tune, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, this is one you guys had on the wall. That's a Carina. Body one that's. It's a blast. Yeah. So there's a great consistency there. And then Henny is using R9 Les Paul.
R9,
And, he really knows what to do with a Les Paul. And then Michael is using a
Jimi Hendrix Monterey Stratocaster.
And this is just the Mexican Strat, but it works, sounds really good.
Thing's great.
It's 98% the player. I don't want to diss my business, because it's good to have good tools, but good tools in the wrong hands don't mean a whole lot. When you got great players with good tools, it's a good thing. So tell me about some other stuff, Bryan, that you're doing. Like, there's another band, Jimmy's Chicken Shack.
Oh well, so I play in a band with the lead singer, Jimmy's Chicken Shack. We're called the Jarflies, but I also fill in with the Chicken Shack, or I've filled in a little bit. He's a great writer. It's one of my two main original projects that I've been with for 20 years. I suppose we've been around together now, but. And then I do just a ton of hired gun work, mostly on the East Coast, and a handful of tours. I've got two young kids, or not too young anymore, 14 and 17. But that's kind of kept me home from touring a bit. But now they're both getting into music, so and I pull them out and have them play in my bands. And
I'd
stuff,
suggest
so.
med
cool.
school. You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
right,
you know,
yeah,
so
yeah. I was like,
But
if you
if
want to
it-
make, if you know how to make, $1 million in the music industry.
Start with a few million.
Yeah, start with 2 million, right?
Well, that happens, but it's nice being able to travel and do all this stuff. But when you are raising a family, it's also nice to be able to stay home and all
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
stuff. And you picked the good gig there with Paul Reed Smith, because
That was, yeah.
and he's from that area. Actually.
Well, yeah, I've known Paul since I was young. I grew up in Annapolis. I really actually lived just south of Baltimore in Annapolis, which is where he started. So I've kind of been a friend of the company for a long time, and then became an artist with them in about 2005. And then they pulled me in to do a video and do a trade show, and then it just kind of snowballed into what I'm doing now, which is pretty regularly. About a third of what I do is with them, which is nice.
That's great. Well, Paul knows good players, so Lord knows he's been around a lot of guitars and guitar
Yeah,
players.
yeah.
So
It's
I
humbling
take my
to- yeah.
hat off to Paul, and him recognizing your playing, which I would never doubt that
Well,
he
cheers.
would.
Thank you.
It's very cool. And Henny, so you've been doing a bunch of different stuff, and I know Vero and All Guitar Network, they're trying to create a show around you, and it's more like almost like a lifestyle show. It involves your guitar playing and all that, but following you around and being a character and being the character that you are.
It's a good thing. We're trying to work it out now. We basically want to be I want to be the Anthony Bourdain of music.
Well, not exactly
No, well,
anymore, but yeah, let's not go in that direction.
Take about a couple years back.
There you go.
The good
Yeah,
years of
because
Anthony
that,
Bourdain. Yeah.
I'm closer to the Anthony Bourdain or whatever I'm doing right now. You're a young man, so
Oh my God.
you better be
Cryptic.
careful what you wish for.
No.
So
Yeah.
and Lemmo, what do you aspire to? I mean,
Well, I got a show coming up.
Yeah, you do
I'm playing my first show in a while.
with your own band.
Yeah, and singing and everything, and it's at the Whiskey A Go Go, November 16th, and it's been a while, Norm. It's been 2 years. The last gig I did by myself like that was at the Troubadour, which went great, but I just needed a break, and I feel like actually with what you've helped me with and getting a job and working at Norm's, I think I'm ready. So
There you go. Well, Michael has some really good tunes too. One tune that I really love, La Cienega, which
We
is
might be
really
playing
cool.
that one.
There you go. Well, it's a really cool tune, and Michael's very original. His tunes are great, and obviously his guitar playing, is pretty stellar. So, when you guys like play together, like with Bryan for the first time, it's like, when he heard you guys playing over at the store. I think, first I was talking to Bryan about maybe doing this, and I kind of got the feeling maybe he thought I was going to just throw you into the fire. But when he heard these guys play, he realized that these guys there was symbiosis going on or some kind of deal.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he knew he could play with these guys, and these guys would follow him, and they're really good musicians. So
There's no following me. I'm over there trying to steal ideas. all the time. You
No,
guys
both
are
ways.
musical.
The best is when you get to, like you said, I mean, obviously I work at the store with Norm, so I'm jamming every day with different people, but it's also amazing when you get to go outside of the 1-4-5 blues thing and people can just kind of make melodies happen. And obviously we talked about the rhythm, but the melodies too. I mean, just not just ripping, but also, I mean, that's also really cool. We all love that. We know we love that. But when you play melodies and stuff like that, and you can just almost, because actually it was funny, Bryan said, he's like, are you guys writing a song? And we were like, well, no, we're just jamming. But that's kind of the idea, is if you're jamming and it starts sounding like a song, I feel like you're on the right track, and everybody just fit right in on that one. So these are my favorite types of jams, actually, personally, instead of just everybody...
slow blues.
Slow blues, yeah.
And that's cool.
I still love
but,
them, but
They have their place for sure.
it's
Yeah,
been
yeah.
done.
Well, one thing that Michael does, and I'm going to ask you to do just a little of this, because I mean, everybody is, everybody is into sustain with guitars and stuff like that, and sustain is fantastic, and but Michael does this kind of staccato, kind of muted rhythmic thing that I've never heard anybody else quite do quite the same way that he does. Can you do just a little something like that? You know what I'm talking about there, Mike? I don't know.
Here I am.
The amps might have went off when they heard me starting to play bass. I think I'm surprised the mics didn't go off too. So show us like what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
there.
sure. Let me get a little bit more volume because it's very. It's all a lot of it's in the left hand. Like you can kind of stop picking and still do it. But there's two different ways. So it started off actually from this "I'm the One," which is a Van Halen song. He just kind of goes like something like. Something like that. So it's, and then I started doing like root notes with it, bass notes. So you can start going. And then you can change the root note. And then you can take chord shapes. So then I start doing. Stuff like that.
Very cool.
That's
Well,
awesome.
That's
it's
super cool.
different from, and also keeping that in time and all that kind of stuff. And it's funny because Michael sometimes he uses like this looping pedal and stuff like that. And I tried to use it. Unfortunately, my time is so messed up that when I press the pedal, I'm like already lost before I even started. He's got it worked out really good.
I'll tell you, it's a tough one to do. That's the toughest thing to do on camera, is the looper. For me, personally, I'm like, because as soon as that camera starts on Guitar of the Day, you're like, oh boy, it's a different game. And stomping on that thing is harder than actually, for me, than doing that. So,
And
thank
then
you for noticing.
we've got a store nut, who's one of the family, Carlos Guitarlos,
Oh, God.
who always calls in and he comments on Michael's videos.
He
And
tortures me.
Carlos is one of the original L.A. Blues and R&B guys. A tremendous guitar player and
He's got
great
some of the
singer,
best
great
tone.
song,
His tone.
great songs, and but he is about as out there as you possibly get. And he calls me up and he goes, "Hey, tell Lemmo to lose that." That
Lose that looper,
pedal, yeah,
ditto looper or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he criticized me for months about the amp I was using on Guitar of the Day, so I switched it to a Pro Reverb, and he came in and bought it. And then when I went back to the old one, he started making fun of me again. And I said, dude, you took the amp that you liked, and so yeah, he's a pain, and he's also the winner of the Norman's Rare Guitars Beauty Contest.
Oh yeah, he yes, and you'd have to see Carlos because this is.
You would understand immediately.
Yeah, you'd understand. It's beauty in a different way. I don't know. His poor wife. I don't know what she does with him. She's such a sweet lady, and
Don't feel bad if you see how much shit he gives us.
yeah, but
That's okay.
but you can check him out, Carlos Guitarlos.
He's
You can check
amazing.
him out online. You can check some of the videos he's done at the store. He's really amazing, but he's also a pain in the ass.
Yes, he is.
How about that Frank Stallone, huh?
Oh, Frank is another one, man. We get more characters that come into the store. Now, Frank has a movie, and we're going to do a podcast with Frank and my buddy Frankie Sullivan from Survivor. And this is a movie about his life. And it's hysterical, and it's really, really good. It's being Sylvester Stallone's brother can be a tremendous plus, and it can be a tremendous minus. And the minus is that a lot of people don't take him seriously. And Frank is actually a very good musician. He's an excellent singer.
Very educated
Good
on
guitar
the
player.
music.
Yeah. But Frank has an attention span of a gnat. So
Yes.
he comes in, and his thing is he'll come in and he'll go, Norm, you got any 330? I love Strats. Les Pauls are my favorite. What kind of acoustics do you have? It's like,
You can only tell by his glasses. Whatever glasses he's wearing is what mood he's in.
Oh, yeah, he's got these Elvis glasses that he takes a lot of stuff with. And then, by the way, I've got a buddy of mine, Larry Lee, who comes in. He's got a dog that is part
Wolf.
shepherd and part wolf. And this dog is like a shepherd that's like on steroids. It's about 6 feet long, you know.
And you can't look him in the eyes.
Yeah, if you look him in the eyes, he kind of takes it as kind of a challenge. You know? But Frank, for some reason, he loves Frank. So Frank will sit on the couch, and the dog will sit right next to him. Then the dog starts licking him. Next thing I know, Frank gets down on the floor, and the dog's like all over him, humping him and stuff. It's a hysterical video.
It happens all the time, though. And
yeah.
they really do have love in their eyes together. There's something that happens. It's weird because he just, like, Frank doesn't even have to do anything.
Frank is kind of a manly guy, but in this particular case, I think he's playing the other side of that
Things
coin.
change,
you know,
yes.
That'd make
yeah.
a great podcast.
Welcome to
It is,
Hollywood.
yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be
it's gonna
coming.
be, yeah. So, and you know, I mean, and Frank, you know, he loves farm animals, and he can tell you which are the
Whoa.
good-looking farm animals and not the good-looking farm
Oh,
animals.
boy.
So, sorry guys, I can't resist. But you know, there's a lot of characters that come into the store, and I mean, it really goes on and on and on, and it's arrested development. I mean, Bryan, you've never grown up, right?
No, I've avoided it this long.
Henny, you've never grown
Oh
up.
man, I still wear sneakers.
There you go. And Michael.
What do you think?
Yeah, I know you've never grown up. And you know what? Even for an old man, I've never grown up because I'm around all these characters, and we have a lot of fun with this stuff. And, you know, it's always interesting for me, and I feel very blessed to be able to bring you guys some of the greatest guitar players on earth. And fortunately for us, a lot of them either live right in this area, like Tim Pierce, or they have business out here, like Bryan Ewald. And Henny lives out this way. Michael now lives out this way. And so within probably a 20-mile radius here, we have some of the greatest musicians and guitar players on the face of the earth. So, and a lot of them stop by the store. And I try to coerce them into doing videos and podcasts and all that. And some of them hate me for it, but I don't give a damn. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's all right. You know, I figure if I'm going to bring it to you guys, I got to do it. So I want to thank these guys. I got Henny Hendrexz on my left, who is just a stellar guitar player. Michael Lemmo, who you know how much we love his playing, he's like the bomb, and we got Bryan Ewald, who's the new bomb over here, who we you know, we love, and he's part of the gang now. He's adopted, and I don't know if this is a family that you want to be any part of, but now you're part of it.
Oh,
so,
well, thanks for having me. Thanks for adopting me.
my pleasure. So can you guys, since you guys are so good, and I'm not going to play bass on this because I don't want to mess you guys up anymore, can you take us out with anything? And just want to thank you guys for listening. And I'm the most blessed guy to be able to be around so many great musicians and fabulous music. So who wants to start this thing, taking us on out?
Norm, I have one question.
Oh, yeah.
How many amps have you sold Joe Bonamassa this year?
I've sold Joe a lot of amps. Joe is, you know, his house, it's getting to the point where he can barely walk through the front door of his house. So he may have to upgrade the house. I mean, it's, you know, Joe is...
Victim number one.
He's a victim in a very big way. You know, I've known Joe since he was 12 years old, and Joe has probably helped me build a house or two over the years. And he's no dummy. He knows what he's buying. He's buying some of the greatest museum quality stuff ever.
And he knows how to pick out a tweed.
Yes, he does. He knows how to pick on a guitar too.
Yeah.
All right, take us out of here, guys. I don't want to start this love stuff anymore. Bryan Ewald to my right, the great Henny Hendrexz to my far left, and the great Michael Lemmo right next to me. Thank you guys for listening.